Nicole, I want to start off, and from your experience, because I know you've been doing this for a while, not to age you, but why don't business owners or people who are building a startup do more thinking around tax strategies? Is it just time?
Well, it's time and. So number one, this is really hard. It's complex stuff. This is, even the easiest tax strategies can get complex pretty quickly once you start considering the non-tax trade-offs and how to weigh that. So we've got the complexity of it. Yes, people are busy and people have other obligations. Business owners are focusing on growing their business and all of the other aspects of their life that they need to be arranging at the same time. Thinking about how to maximize their tax efficiency doesn't often rise to the level of priority in the day. We also have things where things change. And so depending on where you are at in your life or your business cycle, the options that are available to you will be different. So for example, we have tax legislation that is dependent on somebody being a minor child or not being a minor child, and involving them in the business will depend on how old your kids are at that time. Other planning options will only kick in once you or your spouse turns age 65. And so things will change, and staying on top of all of that throughout is just an incredibly demanding thing to be asking of individuals and business owners. We also have new laws changing all the time. Tax laws are changing all the time, but so too are the other laws that will impact whether or not the strategy continues to make sense for you. So you may have family law issues to think about, estate planning issues to think about, creditor planning. So all of these can have an impact on your tax strategies, but the legislation might not even be on your radar. You might not be aware of it, which goes into the expertise. This is really hard, complex stuff that people spend full-time, dedicated, devoted time to understanding. And so working with folks who do that on a full-time basis and get the benefit of that expertise, it helps make this whole process a little bit less onerous.
Yeah, and lets them focus also on the business that they're trying to build at the same time. Yep. So I know, so having said that, I always think the answer always go talk to someone, talk to them with the expertise, tell them what you need, work with the planner, work with the advisor. But you do have 4, I'll say, core ideas that people who are starting a business should be thinking about and can talk about as well when they're trying to do things. So the first one is, and this is interesting, coordinating your personal and your business planning and making sure they work together.
Yeah, and it sounds straightforward. It sounds basic. Of course I would do that. I make sure everything works together. But it's a little bit more complex than that. We need to ensure that we have really considered what the implications are of some of our business decisions on our personal decisions. So personally, I may have a will. But from a business perspective, perhaps I need to have a different type of will. Perhaps I may have more than one will in order to really have the best solutions in place for myself. And making sure that we understand that there are, every time we make a business decision a decision with respect to our business, it could potentially have a personal implication and vice versa.
The second one I should say is business structure, and having the wrong structure, and not just the wrong structure, but at the wrong time.
This is really, this is something that we need to kind of step up and think, what are we trying to achieve? Where are we at? And what are our options? And different structures are better and worse at different times. So you may have a corporation, you may have a sole proprietorship, you may have partnerships, and they are, the choice of what business structure to have not only has tax implications, but again, has these other implications as well from a legal perspective. And so, yeah, making sure that we have the right structure at the right time, and that we make that transition perhaps into a new structure at the right time as well.
This one is interesting and related, I would say, because it's about structure, but you have here about DIY incorporation can lead to missed income splitting opportunities. What does that mean?
So if I go on and incorporate a business, typically what I would see from folks is they have one class of shares, one common set of shares, and they may add other owners, other shareholders to that corporation. That limits what you can do from a planning perspective, because, for example, when you only have one class of shares and you want to issue a dividend, everybody who owns that class of shares is entitled to that dividend. And so having the different classes of shares will allow you to make decisions that will impact the folks that you want it to. So I can give a dividend to this individual, not give a dividend to this individual. from future perspective in terms of packaging up and selling the business or transitioning it to the next generation. The different the different options will be dependent on how things have been structured. And if we just do that easy DIY, press a button and get it set up, we might be missing out on some really great opportunities to save some money and to earn more money down the road.
And a lot of this all comes down to, all of these are about just working with the right people to make sure that you're bringing in the expertise.
Yes, absolutely. So we're dealing with our banker, our financial planner, our lawyer, our accountant, all of the people who are advising us with respect to either our business or our personal affairs, and making sure that they are coordinated and can put the best plan in place. And there are times when, for example, you would have a lawyer who's working on something that may not have family law expertise, may not understand that you have a prenuptial agreement that says certain things that will impact the best possible ways that you should be structured. And so having all of them working together and ensuring that you have the right experts at the table advising you is critical.
How can a planner or advisor think about how to ensure that the client is working with the right professionals? What can the financial planner do to help a business owner identify when they should be speaking to the right people?
And so when I've seen this work really well is when the advisor and the planner sees themselves as an advocate during these conversations. They see themselves as people who can ask the hard questions, ask the embarrassing questions, be comfortable not knowing the answers to things. And so being curious and interested, that's an incredible strength. Our clients don't know everything. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know what products we have. They don't know what services we have. They don't even understand necessarily the questions that they could be asking that would invite those solutions to be presented to them. And so our planners who are bringing those conversations up, are helping clients kind of ask those questions and connecting them with the professionals who can help solve them, whether those are internal or external, whether they're other team members, other services that the bank offers, or connecting them with their trusted advisors externally, accountants and lawyers and people that they have developed relationships with to help give them the answers.
The startup business owner is very different than the established business owner. Of course, the startup wants to become the established business owner, but maybe how does a financial planner address those? Let's start with established.
Okay, so we have established owners, and we're thinking about what are they looking for? They might be looking to access equity in their business. They might be starting to think about retirement. They might be thinking about how to transition the business, pass it on, bring family members in. They could also be not thinking about it at all because everything's working really well and they're transitioning into a more relaxed time where they don't need to be involved in the business so much. And so there's a whole bunch of different ways that we could have that our experienced business owners could be experiencing their situations. What we can do is help them, again, understand what their options are holistically, help them understand that as you transition out of being a business into hopefully retirement, a happily established retirement, that we can help you think about what your income will look like, what your income sources might be, whether or not we need to do some adjustments to the structure of the business, whether we need to start doing things now. We can help them understand timelines, that if we're selling the business and we're thinking about accessing the capital gains exemption, for example, certain things need to be done years in advance. And so anticipating what that looks like, those conversations are going to be a little bit different.
It might be also, I would expect, and you tell me if I'm wrong, that with a lot of these established businesses, there might be a lot of just organic things that have been in place, and things kind of like, oh, we did that way because of this and not this way, and then suddenly they come and it's like they may not have the formal things in place they need.
Absolutely. Things haven't happened organically, and we found ourselves with a really successful business by focusing on the business, but not necessarily all of the other moving parts. And this is the time where we can formalize some of the things that have happened. So do we need to get agreements in place? Do we need to ensure that that if something happens today, that the person that we've trusted, that we bringing along to all of our meetings actually has signing authority, actually has the documentation in place. And so this gives us the opportunity to formalize some of the things that have happened, be intentional about them, put shareholders agreements in place. And so a planner can help identify where those gaps are. So this is what you've done this is really successful. What's missing from this? How can we make sure that that we've dotted all of our I's?
And what about the other end of the spectrum? For someone who's starting up, I mean, if it's a bit of, I'd say, maybe a clean sheet, or maybe not. I don't know.
And it could depend, right? We could have serial entrepreneurs, so it might be a startup, but they may have done this before. It could be somebody who has been in a professional who has worked for other people their entire careers and is now starting up their own thing on their own. Or it could be somebody brand new coming at it, and this is their very first business and their very first experience of this. So again, really understanding who they are and what they're bringing to the table, and really thinking about them from that holistic perspective. So to really help them understand what their options are and connect them with the people that they need to be connected with. If you're starting out, you might not already have your team in place. You might not know anybody who can help. And our planners can certainly help with that.
Sometimes we could have changes in federal government that can affect tax legislation, timing, implementation, all that can kind of get a bit confusing. What do you see as the financial planner's role in addressing those kinds of questions?
To be aware of what's going on in the world and what questions our business owners might have, and so that we're paying attention. But to not feel a responsibility to give advice or tell people what to do in that situation. We're helping navigate. We're helping them understand what the options are, who we might need to engage, other team members that we might need to be bringing in. But at the end of the day, this is all going to change. Everything's going to change all the time. You as a planner have been working with them to help them understand what's important to them, achieve their goals. You have a plan in place that anticipated change, that anticipated the world was going to change, their circumstances were going to change. So giving comfort to the client that they have done everything they need to do up until this point to be in the best possible position they could be in confronting this change. And now we are going to take the appropriate steps and move forward. So just giving that reassurance that the planning process is exactly what prepared them for these future changes.
Nicole, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.